Hi, Susan here. Okay, today we're going to learn all about this tool, the pattern notcher, how it's used, what it is for fashion design, sewing, pattern making, and more. And that's what's next. You that if you are new to my channel, my name is Susan Elias and I have an extensive channel on everything fashion design in the professional manner. So that brings me to today's tool. I haven't really touched on this. I talked about it in my many videos, but I haven't really done a whole video on this little tool. And I think it is so important that we're going to do it today. So the pattern notcher, what it is a tool that looks like this. It's basically like a little die cutter, to say it briefly, that will create a little mark in your paper pattern for your block patterns and for your regular paper patterns and even in your oak tag and more, to help to guide and indicate for the sewer, after the pattern maker can now communicate with the sewer to tell the sewer exactly how to put that pattern together the right way with the right pieces sewn to each other. All right, let me not get ahead of myself. Let's talk about the actual true definition of this tool first. The pattern notcher is a tool that is used to clip the edge of a block to indicate where something needs to occur in the construction of the garment. Why are we talking about this? Why are we even bothering? Well, if you don't already know, commercial sewing or commercial sewing patterns or home sewing patterns are much different than fashion design and industrial pattern making, industrial sewing, and the professional industrial type of fashion design. In that realm, fashion design, you usually don't have a pattern that comes with directions. So these little landmark notches that are on the actual pattern is the pattern direction, so to speak, if that makes sense. It is the puzzle, or it's the process of how to engineer that pattern in construction. The pattern maker puts these notches in specific areas of each piece of the pattern so that then the sewer can translate and match those pieces together. So it's basically the directions for the sewer on how to put the garment together. Because in fashion design and in industrial type sewing, there's usually no directions. There may not even be a picture of the garment, or possibly just a picture of a garment, or a sample garment that was already done, or maybe no sample at all. So the first time you're making this, you have just the guides that the pattern maker puts on the pattern to indicate to the sewer how to put those pieces together. Let me show you more on the flat, the details of it, and all the different elements of where it's done. Okay, first I want to show you the tool, which is the pattern notcher tool right here. And I'm going to show you, you put the tool and you see there's like a little die cut there and a little shape and a hole. You put the pattern or the block and slide it over till it can go no further. Then you press down and it makes a little indication that is 1/4 of an inch long by 1/8 of an inch wide. That slit is to translate to the pattern that will also then translate to the cut pattern pieces on the fabric themselves. All right, let me show you the different areas that it's used. This is a pattern block. That means it is a shape of a pattern, but it is not a pattern because it does not have seam allowance. But in fashion design, we use this block in order to make new designs. So you can use indications on the actual pattern block in order to give the individual the knowledge of where certain landmarks are, like the mid of the shoulder, the mid of the neck, the center of the neck, where the bust level would be, where the armhole of the front would be. So that is for the actual block. A pattern has seam allowance. This is a sleeve pattern, and I have pattern, and then I have put the notches here and here. That indicates that the sewer knows that there is a 1/2 inch seam allowance going this way, and that there is a 1/2 inch seam allowance going this way, giving the sewer knowledge to sew a 1/2 inch on this pattern all the way across, and a 1/2 inch all the way down, if that makes sense. It's also a way to indicate the center of a pattern if you have something on the fold. For instance, this is a front top, and you would want to put right there so that you know, and the sewer knows, that this is the center line of that pattern piece once it is opened up and cut. This is a sleeve pattern, and on a sleeve pattern, the seam allowance as well as the indication where you know where the front part of the sleeve cap is and the back part of the sleeve cap is. 2 notches are always an indication of the back. 1 notch is always an indication of the front. And it's also helpful so that when you're sewing and the sewer can put it in, they can match these notches and they know exactly where these pattern pieces go. And they also know if there's any extra or ease that has to be done to ease and make sure that it fits properly. It is also always placed on the ends of dart legs. So the intake amount is always indicated by a notch. Another important placement is where the zipper would end on a garment. And they know that is the end of where the zipper is. And since this is the back as well, typically you would have 2 notches somewhere on the back, like that, so that the sewer will know that this is the back piece. Okay, what happens when you have many pieces on a pattern? It becomes like a jigsaw puzzle, right? It gets crazy. So, in order to decipher between a front piece and a back multiple layer piece, you will have double notches indicating that these are back pieces. You will have single notches indicating that this is a front piece. And then the sewer will know with the 2 notches here to match up these 2 pieces together. So you don't get confused putting it this way or any other way. Lastly, you will see on pattern pieces that you can have a notch, and this is on the bottom part of this garment or this pattern. So that tells the sewer that this is where the actual hem of the garment is going to be put up. So when you're cutting out a pattern piece like I am here, in professional sewing, we clip inward like this. That's all we do with the tip of the scissor in order to indicate all the markings, the double notch there, the seam allowance notches, and the center notch. Remembering not to go any further than 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch up so that you don't compromise the actual garment if you go past your seam allowance itself. So in summary, you use it on a pattern block without seam allowance to indicate markings that you want to translate to the pattern maker or to design different ways with your block. Indications on the paper pattern itself, and then translates to indications on the actual cut cloth of the garment you're trying to achieve. Those are the different ways that you put the actual notches in. Do not get it confused with clipping around a neckline which is also considered notching when you want to release tension on a curve, for instance. That is just a process that is done with scissors. And for goodness sakes, never ever use your notcher on the fabric, even if it can go through there, because it's not meant to go through there. It's only meant for paper or cardboard or plastic patterns, if that makes sense. Thank you for watching All About the Pattern Notcher. If you want me to talk about seam allowance in another episode, please let me know in the comments below. Give me comments that you've learned something new today. And I hope you love this video. Give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, guys. Susan Elias Couture. It's the same on Instagram. I give daily posts there. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.